People laughed whenever they saw 15-year-old Amara selling Akara after school. Future roadside mama. See her uniform smelling like beans oil. Every evening, the entire village mocked her while she stood beside hot oil trying to feed her sick mother. But one rainy evening, a long black jeep suddenly stopped right in front of her Akara stand. The whole village went silent. Because the rich man who stepped out of that jeep looked directly at Amara and said, "I have been searching for you." What happened next shocked the entire village forever. Stay till the end, because this story proves that people can laugh at your beginning and still celebrate your ending. In the village of Umuaka, poverty was something everybody could see. Broken roofs, dusty roads, children hawking food after school. And among all those children, one girl suffered the most. Her name was Amara. Amara lost her father when she was very young. Nobody really explained how he died. Some said sickness. Others said stress from trying to provide for his family. But after his death, life became hard immediately. Her mother started selling Akara by the roadside to feed the family. At first, things were manageable. But 2 years later, her mother suddenly became sick. Very sick. The once strong woman could barely stand beside the fire anymore. That was when Amara stepped in. Every morning by 4 a.m., while other children slept peacefully, Amara woke up to grind beans, fetch water, and prepare Akara before school. Then after classes ended, she returned straight to the roadside to continue selling till evening. At first, nobody cared. Then one day, students in school discovered where the smell of beans oil on her uniform came from. Everything changed immediately. Akara girl. Future fryer. Even some teachers laughed carelessly. One afternoon during break, a boy pointed at her and shouted, "Don't stand too close. She smells like frying oil." The entire class burst into laughter. Amara forced a smile. But deep inside, the words hurt badly. Sometimes she cried silently at night. Not because she hated selling Akara, but because people treated her like she had no future. Still, she never stopped working. Because every coin mattered. Her younger siblings needed food. Her mother needed medicine. And deep inside her heart, Amara carried one secret dream. She wanted to become a lawyer someday. Not for fame. Not for money. But because she wanted to help poor people whose voices nobody listened to. So every night after selling Akara, she still studied with an old lantern while mosquitoes filled the room. One evening, while helping her mother arrange Akara inside a tray, her mother looked at her sadly. "My daughter, I'm sorry this life is hard for you." But Amara smiled softly. "One day things will change, Mama." Her mother touched her face gently. "Never be ashamed of honest work." Amara nodded. But outside their small house, people were still laughing at them. And none of them knew that destiny was already moving toward Amara in the form of one black jeep. 3 days later, dark clouds covered the village. Rain was coming. Most traders packed their goods early and went home. But Amara stayed beside the roadside. If she didn't sell enough Akara that evening, there would be no money for her mother's drugs. As she turned the Akara inside hot oil, 3 boys from her school passed by. One of them laughed loudly. "See, future professor." Another mocked. "Maybe Harvard is waiting for her beside this frying pan." The boys burst into wicked laughter. Even some adults nearby smiled. Amara lowered her head and kept walking silently. Then suddenly, honk! A loud horn echoed across the road. Everybody turned immediately. A long black jeep slowly entered the village road. Dust rose into the air as the expensive vehicle stopped directly in front of Amara's stand. Silence. Children gathered around quickly. Villagers stared in confusion. Luxury cars never entered that side of Umuaka. Then the back door opened. A tall man in a black suit stepped out slowly. The moment elderly villagers saw him, their eyes widened. Wait! Is that Chief Okafor? No, it can't be. The whisper spread immediately. Years ago, Chief Okafor left the village and became one of the richest businessmen in the country. People said governors visited his house. Some claimed he owned companies abroad. Nobody expected him to return. But the biggest shock came next. Instead of going to the village chief's palace, he walked straight toward Amara. The girl became nervous immediately. Maybe rich people didn't like roadside smoke touching their cars. But then the man smiled warmly. My daughter, he said gently, can I buy Akara from you? Amara blinked in confusion. Yes, sir. Her hands trembled slightly as she packed the Akara. The chief watched her carefully. Then he asked, what is your name? Amara, sir. The man suddenly froze. For a few seconds, he stared at her face carefully. Then he asked another question. Who was your father? Amara swallowed slowly. His name was Chinedu. The rich man inhaled sharply. The villagers exchanged confused looks. Then slowly, Chief Okafor's eyes filled with emotion. And what he said next shocked everybody. Your father once saved my life. Rain started falling softly, but nobody moved. The entire road became silent. Chief Okafor looked at Amara carefully. Many years ago, he began, armed robbers attacked me near this village. The villagers listened quietly. I was young and poor then. Your father hid me in his house and protected me till morning. Amara's eyes widened. She had never heard this story before. The chief continued. Afterward, I offered him money. But your father refused. The villagers murmured in surprise. He told me something I never forgot. Chief Okafor paused. If you ever succeed in life, help somebody else. Complete silence covered the road. Then the chief smiled sadly. I came back to this village years later. To find him, only to hear he had died. Amara lowered her head slowly. But today, the chief continued, I finally found his daughter. The villagers watched in suspense. Then Chief Okafor reached into his pocket and brought out a business card. I want to sponsor your education. The crowd gasped loudly. Not only secondary school, he added. University too. Amara nearly stopped breathing. For years, her dreams felt impossible. Now suddenly, this rich man was speaking as if her future already existed. But instead of celebrating immediately, Amara whispered nervously. My mother is very sick. Chief Okafor nodded gently. I know. Then he signaled his driver. The driver brought out a thick envelope. The chief handed it to Amara. This is for your mother's treatment. Amara opened it slightly. And froze. It was more money than she had ever seen in her life. Tears filled her eyes instantly. No sir, this is too much. But Chief Okafor smiled softly. Your father helped me when nobody else did. This is nothing. Then suddenly, the chief turned toward the crowd. His voice became louder. Never mock honest struggle. The villagers lowered their heads immediately. Some people are too busy laughing at small beginnings that they cannot recognize future greatness. The boys who mocked Amara earlier looked deeply ashamed. Then the chief faced Amara again. One day, this village will celebrate you. After saying that, he entered the black jeep. And slowly, the vehicle disappeared into the rain. But the story of the Akara girl was only beginning. Everything changed after that day. People who once mocked Amara suddenly started greeting her respectfully. Teachers treated her differently. Even the students who laughed at her became quiet whenever she passed. But Amara never became proud. Instead, she focused harder on school. Meanwhile, her mother finally received proper treatment in the city hospital. Within months, her health improved greatly. For the first time in years, hope returned to their home. Then exam season arrived. Students studied day and night. When results were finally released, the entire school exploded with shock. Amara came first in the entire school. The same girl people once mocked for smelling like Akara oil had defeated everybody academically. News spread across the village immediately. But the biggest moment came 1 year later during graduation day. The entire village gathered under large tents to celebrate the students. Music played loudly. Parents danced proudly. Then suddenly, another black jeep arrived. The crowd cheered immediately. Chief Okafor stepped out smiling. This time, he walked straight toward Amara holding a document. The village became quiet. Then he handed it to her. A full scholarship to study law abroad. The entire place exploded with screams and applause. Amara covered her mouth in shock. Her mother burst into tears immediately. Chief Okafor raised his hand for silence. Then he spoke words nobody forgot. Years ago, people saw this girl selling Akara. He pointed toward Amara proudly. But I saw determination. The crowd clapped loudly. People saw poverty. He paused. But I saw greatness. Many villagers lowered their heads in shame. Then Amara stepped forward with tears in her eyes. I used to cry whenever people mocked me, she admitted. The crowd became silent. But my mother taught me never to be ashamed of honest work. She looked toward her mother emotionally. And before the black jeep ever stopped in front of me, Amara smiled softly. I had already decided not to give up. Thunderous applause filled the entire village. At that moment, everybody finally understood something powerful. The black jeep changed Amara's life. But her determination was what brought destiny to her doorstep. Years later, Amara became a successful lawyer known for defending poor families for free. And whenever people asked where her journey started, she always smiled and said, beside a roadside Akara stand. Meanwhile, in Umuaka village, parents stopped mocking struggling children. Because they had learned something important. Never laugh at humble beginnings. The child you ignore today may become the person who inspires the world tomorrow. And sometimes, greatness does not arrive wearing expensive clothes. Sometimes it stands quietly beside hot oil, fighting not to give up. If this story touched your heart, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more emotional African folktales, village mysteries, powerful life lessons, and unforgettable stories. And tell me in the comments, if you were Amara, would you have given up after all that mockery?